Hey, all you Arizona lovers. This is the Finding Arizona podcast, episode number 367 with Kelsey of In Tune with Your Intuition. It's a podcast for those of you who are just learning about yourselves and want to learn more and just trying to answer life's questions. This podcast is for you, I promise you. Go check them out. We always give the links down in the bio. And also, if you want to be on the show, you can catch us at findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com. We'll answer your emails right away on how to do so. If you want to go through the website, that is findingarizonapodcast.com. If you'd like to just send us a DM and let us know who should be in next, go send us a DM over at all our social medias under Finding Arizona Podcast. Guys, there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on today. Oh, man,
Who is a no woman?
She's ambitious.
She is a juggling life.
Oh, she is high performing.
She's self-made.
Definitely busy.
Woman supporter.
Cares about the rooms that she's going into.
Building an empire.
Definitely working in a male-dominated industry.
She is competitive.
And cares about impact.
And she's inspired by the word no.
Oh, completely relentless.
She is self-made.
She is a badass.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Finding Arizona podcast. I'm your host, Jose. As always, we bring in special guests every week, and today is no different. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce you to Joe Labrie, who is the Director of Operations of Bug and Weed Mart. For the last 40 years, the Valley's trusted destination for do-it-yourself pest control products, equipment, and advice. Bug and Weed Mart has several locations in the East Valley and Phoenix. Whether you want to control your scorpions, bed bugs, weeds, or everyday pests, they'll show you how to do it successfully. At Bug and Weed Mart, you win and bugs lose. I love that little saying there that you guys have. Thank you, Joe, for joining us.
Thanks for the generous introduction. I couldn't have summed it up better myself, so thank you. I really appreciate and yeah, the bugs, the bugs, you win, bugs lose was a product of my sister Kara's design, so I'll give her the kudos there. But thank you again.
Awesome. So again, you brought up your sister, so I'm going to jump right into this kind of, I know you gave us a little bit of a write-up, so I have a little bit of interest in your history and already know a little bit about it, but you are a product of what I'd like to call a family business. And this is something that has been generated by your father. I'd love to, because I always ask this of everyone who comes in through our doors, can you give us the origin story and how all of this came to be in your life and how all of the business came to be?
I don't want to bore you too much.
Oh, no, you never bore me. I love learning about this because it's, again, no one starts off like, hey, I want to do a brick and mortar store all throughout Phoenix. I'd love hearing the stories about it.
Well, you're asking from all the angles that I'm very excited to talk about. So, no, you're right. I am a victim or a product of the family business, and in reality, I'm a very fortunate person. My father started the business almost by accident.
Oh, okay.
My father was a teacher. He taught at Borgate High School when we moved here not long after I was born in the 60s. But after about 5 years of teaching and then selling pharmaceuticals, he was being told by his employer, push these drugs to these doctors. And he'd say, well, what if their needs might be different? Well, we need to sell these products. And my dad had a real problem with that.
Okay.
So he was that guy on the sales team that was kind of a pain in the butt at sales meetings, questioning things because he was really trying to do the right thing for people. And his teacher background propelled him to thinking about other forms of opportunity. And one day in 1979, he wandered into do-it-yourself pest control on East Main Street in Mesa. I don't remember the exact address, but it was a shack of a building. A gentleman had about a dozen products in there. And my father was very interested in controlling bugs in the house. He's got 6 kids by this age. Just had his 6th kid. And he's got a lot of responsibility. So pest control was an expense he really couldn't afford.
Mhm.
And he bought this product from this guy and said he was very underwhelmed with the presentation, but thought the product was amazing. And he was told that it was the same stuff that the pros use with a few precautions. Here's how you apply it, and you won't have to call a bug guy. You could do it yourself and do the professional products just as well as a pro would do it. So he was really turned on by this concept and thought, this is underdeveloped. And he's not at all a marketing guy, but he saw opportunity and said, if I could work this store on Saturdays and have another employee work it Monday through Friday, I wonder if this gentleman would sell me the business. So that led to him making an offer. He bought the business. And for about 4 or 5 years, as I understand it, he ran it, again, going in on Saturdays to work himself. And then he would sneak into the store a couple of times of the week, say hi to his employee and make sure he's running the store the right way.
Yeah.
And anyway, he built that basically into something that people started saying, can you put another store in Mesa, or can you put one in Tempe?
Yeah.
And that was 1979. As of 89, he had 3 stores. As of 99, he had 5 stores. And that's where we are. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, you know what? He kind of did it by accident, but he's such a good person when it comes to taking time with people and saying, what do you experience and what do you need? Do you know how to pump up a sprayer? If you haven't, let's review this. And he'll basically roll his sleeves up and show people, this is how you pour chemical into a sprayer, and this is how you pump it up. And see this mist spray, it's just water, but let's pretend there's chemical. He's showing them how to spray. I'm seeing this
awesome.
as a teenager. I'm like, my dad is such a dork. What is he doing? This is so goofy. But what I just realized is he was knowing exactly what people were looking for, and he bonded with them because he got on the same plane with them, and he understood their problem. And the next thing you know, they're coming in, they're telling their friends, and this became a word of mouth business. So, I'm just fortunate enough to have stumbled into it. In the late 2000s, I was selling wine and spirits for about 20 years, having a ball of a time, getting a lot of travel, getting to taste a lot of great wines and spirits and dining, etc. But I wasn't a very good political player, and I found myself unexpectedly fired from a fairly prominent company and not sure what to do. And my father at that time was opening that 5th store I was telling you about, and that was in Phoenix. So I went to open his Bug and Weed Mart in Phoenix, and as a manager. And after a couple of years, I realized this is pretty neat. People really like this stuff.
Yeah.
It seems to work. And that's kind of how I bought in. Well, I guess this isn't a 2 or 3 year hiatus. 13 years later, I'm still here. I'm far away from wines and spirits, and just trying to continue to do what's right by people when they come in and say, "I have this problem. What do you have?" We have a lot of things that could probably confuse them easily. It's our job to say, here's what to use, here's how much, here's how to keep your pets safe and your kids. Let's go after this.
Man, so there's so many questions just from that origin story. I love just the fact that your father was just in living his life, just living, the idea of like, I have 6 kids. I need to make sure that this expense is as low as possible, and I want to maintain my home. And the other aspect of it is like, for yourself is like, you may find yourself in one category of work, and then, this other category may not seem like, the future. But at the end of the day, I mean, these products that you're using in your home, and they never go away. You're always constantly using them. You're always constantly having to, if not change them or go in a different direction of like taking care of scorpions versus cockroaches or ants, all of that. But I want to just say, kudos to your dad for sticking it out and seeing something through all the way, because that is definitely planting your seeds and watching it grow into a beautiful flower sort of kind of story. And that is something that I just really truly admire from the people who live here a long period of time, and how their families grow into this city. It's kind of a beautiful tapestry of how this city grows and how it works. I'd love to get insight for you. Like you had brought up, you were a teenager at the time. Just the insight of like, your perspective of what your dad had to go through that time period of like, from 1 store to 2 stores to 3 stores to 4 to 4 to 5. But just kind of like, I know for myself, I always I always looked at my dad of like, I don't want to go down his route, or like I don't want to be in his shoes
Right.
sort of deal. Was that a constant thing for you? Is like, I don't want to be in the bug business, or I don't want to be into what my dad's doing sort of deal for you, because it sounds like you went a different path for a while there.
Yeah, I'm the fourth of
Okay.
six kids. God-loving Roman Catholics, right? So there's a lot of fun family stories we have, and growing up, again, I had a great situation, but I thought what my father did for a living was whack. I didn't want to do that. He had all these pharmaceutical samples of mini little cough syrups and pills, and he would
Yeah.
make these up, and he would actually employ us kids. He'd lay out all the little packets and say, you need to put two of these and two of those. I'm going to Flagstaff for the week, and I'm going to need to give these 40 different kits to these doctors. And so I was just kind of like, your job is horrible, man. I wouldn't want to do that. And then a really kind of a funny story looking back, but at the time I had no idea the impact that it caused.
Hmm.
But when my dad decided to buy the stores, he was violating a clause in the contract that he had as a pharmaceutical salesman. He said you
Oh.
can't moonlight, you can't have another
Uh-uh.
source of income. And someone found out about it within his company and narked on him, and he had to make a decision. And
Hmm.
so one day, I come back. I'm a senior in high school. I'm walking up the driveway, and I see my dad's car is there. Now it's Friday. Dad's usually working
Yeah.
until 5 p.m. on Friday. Not only is his car in the driveway, it's backed up. And Dad's not cool. He doesn't back his car into the driveway. And the trunk lid is up, right?
Uh-oh.
Next to Dad's car is another company car from the same pharmaceutical company backed in with its trunk lid. And I recognize that's his boss's car. And I walk
Oh.
up, and his boss says to me, "Hi, Joe." And I say, "Hi, Dale." And then I see my dad, and they're both loading stuff into the trunk. My dad says, "Hi, Joe." I'm like, "Hi, Dad. What's up?" He goes, "Oh, I quit." Son of a gun.
Oh
So I walk in.
man.
I said, "Okay, that's cool." I
Okay.
didn't know anything. I'm 18. I don't know anything about what that statement meant. I walk inside, and my mom is bawling. She
Oh.
is absolutely losing her mind. And she's like, your father just bought a bud business, and that's going to take care of us instead of, this pharmaceutical sales job that he had. He had benefits and insurance. And none of that does he have anymore.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, well, bummer, Mom. I was a teen. I did not get it.
Yeah.
But pretty amazing when I reflect back, because he did. He went out on a limb there and said, I believe in this thing.
That's
And,
great.
and when you talk about the tapestry of people in Arizona who have been here for a while, and especially the greater Phoenix area,
Mhm.
it's real. He really kind of the ebb and flow of this area was how that business went.
Yeah.
And it was so homegrown that he knew no other way to run it. So it's kind of cool thinking about the struggles and the risks that he took, and the fact
Absolutely.
that it did him so well. So yeah.
And that is exactly what we hear. I mean, from my perspective as the story, collector kind of, I love that type of stuff, because again, it's like the risk factor of it all, and just what your whole family had to go through, and then the understanding behind it really makes for an understanding of like, you guys have stuck it out and have really put yourselves out there to really make this business come full circle and flourish the way it does. And I have nothing but respect for your father and for your family for doing this for as long as you have, because it is not easy. It is definitely not easy to own a brick and mortar store. It's definitely not easy to hold out on a business for 40 years. And it is definitely something to look at and admire, and especially the fact that you have 5 stores that are still still running and still doing what they're doing, and it's beautiful to see and understand. I love the fact that you guys have this kind of story that is kind of like, okay, we're taking a risk here. I would love to understand how the pandemic worked out for you guys too, because that is something more of on a modern day scale, a risk. And for someone in business, we had a bunch of businesses come through during that time and helped us understand how they kept going or how they kept afloat, because it affected everyone, no matter who you were, what business you did. It was something that touched every family, every person on a different scale. So I'd love to just get that time period from your perspective on what happened to the stores and what happened to you and your family.
Yeah. Thanks, Jose. I'm thinking about this because it's um, it seems a little distant now, but it was 2.5, 3 years of tumult, right?
Yeah.
A lot of unpredictability.
Yeah.
So initially, once the pandemic was recognized and the lockdown was instituted, the key question for us was: Are we going to make that cut? Are we
Hmm.
an essential business?
Yeah.
And turns out, yeah, bed bugs and roaches in kitchens and things like that are not good. So we got the green light to go ahead, and that was super important.
Yeah.
Uh, and so then I set off on buying plexiglass protectors for all the registers and
Hmm.
getting everybody the PPE that they needed, trying to find hand sanitizer, and then it's we're putting signs on the doors saying we can only limit this many people, and we're putting the little stickers on the floor saying please stand this far away as you wait for your
Yeah.
purchase. And we, for the first time, we really started to recognize more to your, I guess, the bigger question: how do you respond in a business sense?
Yeah.
And we realized we had never really positioned ourselves as, well, call us, let us know, or go online, let us know what you're looking for. And if it's easier during these times, you don't have to come in. We'll have it ready for you. You can pay us now. You can pay when you get here. We don't care. But we started to finally grasp some of that and realize how important that was as people's fears and trying to honor all the concerns of their, that they had at the time. We learned a lot about that period.
Mhm.
So so initially, it was actually kind of good for our business, as bad as things were.
Yeah.
Uh, by the time we got deeper into the pandemic, we had our supply chain issues and our pricing issues with raw ingredients. And when you're dealing with herbicides and pesticides and granules and dusts and
Hmm.
emulsifiable concentrates and all these things that you don't think about too much because of this pretty package that it finishes in. But
Yeah.
Ukraine war, I started to learn, wow, I didn't realize that active ingredients are made from products that are coming from Ukraine,
Yeah.
China, some of them from the Middle East. But all of a sudden, there were specific issues with, it seems like, every one of these. And we started to pucker because people were starting to hoard, and they were coming in and buying larger quantities than they would normally do because they were hearing about supply chain issues too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, I guess where I'm going with this is we felt like, well, you know what, we're in pretty good shape. We're going to have some supply problems, and we did pride ourselves on keeping most of our items in stock. But
Good.
everything went through the roof on pricing, and only in the last probably 6 to 12 months did those start to come down again.
Okay.
So the real key is to make sure, even if you bought it at a high price, that you recognize that the market has changed, and if you have a good that people want, you need to fairly price it. And
Yeah.
things were changing weekly. And for a small business like ours with 200 SKUs of herbicides and pesticides and sprayers and all these things, I was challenged to really stay on top of that, and I never had
Yeah.
experienced that before. So I think from a learning standpoint, from a small business, we run on a very small overhead, right?
Mhm.
We have one store manager per store, and that's the only employee in the store. And I manage all 5 of those, and I do the ordering, and I source the goods, and I help with the promotions, and then my sister helps with the marketing and those kind of things. But when
Okay.
you think about it, everything from a customer complaint to a time off request to um, uh, a great product review or something, all those things are kind of funneling through very few bodies. So to add some of those complexities, we didn't recognize the full impact of that. But
Mhm.
now we definitely see the landscape has changed even more, and the consumer has gotten very well educated. And but there's our big thing now and in the past is the ick factor of what happens if I handle this wrong, or what happens if my dog walks over this too soon.
Yeah.
So we're still kind of thriving on that, being that consultant to the do-it-yourselfer who's pretty aggressive and trying stuff, but really wants to make sure
Yeah.
you're doing it safely, and they're doing as good of a job or better than if they paid for it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, again, you brought up the chain supply and kind of the hoarding factor. It's just I've heard that from the very start of the pandemic, and just hearing it from business owners and how that reflected on trying to keep up and trying to also manage the expectation of having the supply and demand sort of um, reaction to everything. And so I would, that's again, kudos to you guys for allowing your all 5 stores to kind of keep supply, available to the customers who need it. And I think it's so incredible to like hear what people went through and understand kind of the difficulties of what they had to do as far as, because people don't really understand. It's like, again, it affected everyone on every scale you can possibly imagine. One being the supply chain, and another is just the fact of the safety protocols that you had to switch up, and managing that aspect and making sure that your own employees are being safe, along with your customers being feeling safe in your stores as well. So, I mean, again, it's all kind of a not a distant memory, but kind of like it's going more and more away from that period time, and there are certain aspects that people have kept in certain systems, like one of the big things that I've started to recognize is, again, the pulling up and the for certain stores, and using your car, and the method of just parking and getting your supplies and still supplying the customer through the parking method and through the car. I think that's interesting. Certain technologies through that time period have kind of integrated itself into the everyday aspect, because again, it's just something that you built in and you kind of keep going, and it just doesn't go away, and it's just kind of integrated itself into the everyday norm. So it's interesting to see that from a different perspective, such as bugs, weeds, and all of these kind of pesticides and things like that. Because as a homeowner myself in particular, I have someone come out to my home, and I don't really do it yourself, but at the same time, there's an aspect of that where I wish I kind of, I do the pest control part, or the not pest control, the weed control part is something that I like to do and maintain kind of a healthy approach to it, because I'm a landscape architect by trade. And so that's something that I love to kind of manage at my own home, is just the weed control aspect. So I'd love to also, we kind of keep touching upon this, is the family aspect and having your siblings, and so like it being in a family experience, and how you guys maintain this business. Can you give us a little insight of like, like, I mean, I know you and your sister work together, but the other siblings and how they kind of approach dad maybe asking them to work the summers or whatever it may be, and like where did that all kind of dwindle? Like now that it's just you and you, I imagine it's just you and your sister kind of maintaining this business. But give us a little insight on the family dynamics and how that all came to be for your dad, and allowing them to work in the business, and where are they all now? Like, I'd love to hear about that. That'd be interesting.
It is kind of a scattered story, but when you have 6 kids, you're right. There's kind of a meat grinder mentality. I think as a parent you have to take.
Yeah.
What's good for the goose is good for the gander, and we're going to do what we do to the first kid, is indoctrinate them all. So sure enough, my oldest brother Jim was the first Bug and Weed Mart employee within the family that my father hired. Jim didn't get too into the job too much. So he ran, I think he ran the Tempe location for a while.
Okay.
And actually a couple of friends of his also ended up being store managers for my dad. So he brought, if nothing else, he brought some labor to the picture. I don't know how stunning of a performance that was, or how impressed Dad was with Jim, to be honest with you. And Jim will admit that. So Jim quit. Years later, Kara, who you heard me reference her earlier, Kara is the 6th of 6, right?
Okay.
And Kara worked for my dad on Saturdays, when he would work on Saturdays, up till probably 14, 15 years old. So from probably 10 to 15, Kara worked with Dad, because inside the store, in that Tempe store, you might remember like how they have in Hallmark stores, sometimes you find a post office, oddly enough, within this Hallmark store. Well, my dad had applied when the permits were available, and we were able to get a post office inside a Bug and Weed Mart. So he figured people come in to mail their packages, they're going to have to take notice of what's around here. They're going to say it smells or whatever, and realize, hey, well, that's a good smell. Those are poisons that are going to do the right things if we use them right. So Kara, that's how Kara came to work for us. And that kind of went away. And then I went to work for my dad for a short period of time in my 20s. And kind of like I looked at him when I was in my teens, said, nah, this isn't right for me. And I walked away from it. I am the only one to come back to the business other than, well, I shouldn't say that. Kara came back as well.
Yeah.
But I came back again because I had a financial crisis and a career.
Yeah.
But the dynamic that I have in the family, I'm really lucky on. Yeah, I'm one of 6 kids. Well, this is my dad's business. It's his estate, essentially. So without getting too personal, the kids, the other 4 kids, they do have an interest in, hey, how are you guys doing? Are you running the business with competence? Are you spending money wildly? Are we growing? What are the challenges? They'll ask, but I got to give them a lot of credit. They'll ask and realize, hey, if we're dealing with stuff, they don't ask on an everyday basis, so they probably don't have that expertise, and they value letting us sort things out. Kara is phenomenal. She worked for GoDaddy for several years as account executive, and I forget her exact position, but she's dealt with some pretty high level pressure. Exactly. And kind of understands business dynamics well. I'm the emotional guy who maybe she'll look at my email and tamp it down and use a little bit different wording where I get excited. She's very, very calm. So she is really, really helpful. She is having her there, makes me feel like we're actually steering this thing in the direction my dad would want it to go.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. It's like, one being, how do you would you think your dad is you guys going in the right direction? Do you think he would be proud enough to be admitted, you guys are doing well? And then also I imagine there must be some grandkids involved, or at least, soon to be involved, or what that entails. But it's I would love to hear that aspect of the next generation coming up.
It'd be kind of fun. I've got a 25-year-old son and a 23-year-old daughter, who's 26 and 24. And I would love to get my son involved. My daughter, she doesn't have too much of an interest, but there are other siblings. I have other nieces and nephews who, have kind of taken an interest, and I can see them if they continue to show the interest. I don't recruit too heavily. They see enough of me and the products, and they're the mom and dad using the product.
Yeah.
But once in a while, I'm getting some curiosity. So it does make me wonder. It would be awesome. It would be phenomenal to be able to see this through and continue to foster what my dad did, and to keep our managers, who are the bread and butter of what makes my job easy. They're wonderful. They make this work. So as they get older and as they want to retire, because our guys are usually they're homeowners, they've had a couple of homes. So, when retirement does happen, to get some young blood in who might actually have some practical experience and all, usually there's an advantage there. It'd be fun to get a family member involved.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's I being a father myself, it's just again, I'm starting to realize what legacy or what kind of, something to give him, like you said, an estate or something like that. Am I leaving behind? Am I showing the right kind of interest in his talents along with my own talents, to, meld together, or at least provide an opportunity to have this kind of crossover. And, I just think it's really fun when it's a family dynamic, and when it's kind of oh man, it's 3 generations of this family member wanting to provide for the valley and provide for their own family too as well. So I think it's really nice. And let me ask you this, because you had brought up your brother's name Jim. I know that your dad's name was Jim. Is there another Jim, the third Jim?
Oh God, no, like a George Foreman thing?
Yeah.
No, thankfully, but it is funny. Again, we have Roman Catholic names: James, John, Joseph, and then we have Bridget, Kara, and Monica. I mean, not exactly Mary and the typical Catholic women's names, but No, it's funny you mentioned that though.
Yeah, because I was like, man, it's like that'd be to me in my mind of like, man, if Jim stayed involved with it and just like three gyms that you'd never have to forget the name of, like, oh yeah, it's Jim. He owns the spot and it's his store. But it's just funny to me because we all have different middle names, but my father's name is Jose as well, and then my grandfather was Jose as well, but we all had different middle names. So it was just something that I was like, oh well, I mean, if I have a second child, I'll probably, and that's a male, I'd probably go with Jose. But it's like I went a different route for my son's name, and it's just been it helps to like change it up just a little bit, give it a little fresh look, and like you said, you go from uh Joe to Joseph and things like that, and it's just funny to me.
It's fun to confuse people too.
Yeah,
If something's going wrong, yeah, we're usually pointing to one of those other family members, and that's the one you need to see. And which one is it?
yeah, exactly.
No, it's a convenient out, but no, I remember, again, growing up, we had some real fun times. My
Mhm.
my parents were very very committed to raising the family, and
Yeah,
as much as we tried to screw things up as kids, they succeeded.
that's
Um,
awesome.
and yeah, and both of them are still alive today, thankfully. So,
Great.
um, yeah, and in fact, we're in business right now. It's Saturday. It's midday. I have a feeling my father is checking in. He's got the software. He can see how each store is doing. He'll be making notes for me. Hey,
You click in here and there, just double checking everything.
yeah, was there an opportunity for a sprayer to be sold with this order? And he catches little things. And did we get the color dye added for that herbicide for that guy? And he sees things that I'm like, okay, let me follow up. Dad still got it. So
He's still
it's,
he's still up there. And I mean, to me, that's the most wonderful aspect about having a career that just never goes away, or like something that you're passionate about that never goes away. That level of interest, or that level, it keeps you young at heart. I believe it keeps you motivated. It keeps you wanting to that vigor of life keeps you going and keeps you alive and keeps you just here on earth, to like your mind just keeps going and wants to do more, wants to be a part of this. And so kudos to your dad for still wanting to be a part of this.
yeah, I'll tell you something on that note, Jose. I mean, we were open for 6 days a week forever, right? But
Hmm.
people would wait until Saturday sometimes because they knew they could go to Tempe and they would find my dad. And my dad's they were so impressed with how animated he would get. I mean, my dad would say, "This stuff is really neat." I mean, he would break it down like that and get all excited. And he would, our big thing is we'll take a Sharpie and we'll
Yeah.
write, "Okay, here's the dose. It's 2 ounces per 1 gallon of water, and don't apply when it's over 85 degrees because you'll burn your grass." And he's writing on the back of the bottle by now. And
Oh my
his whole thing is
gosh.
people walked out of there going with these cheat sheets and just kind of with this, yes, I finally get it. So to, that's like a really, really important thing to us, that people come to us because they trust us. And
Yeah.
I've had people walk in, especially when I first started working for the company, came back to work for dad, and I'd be in the store and someone would come in and go, "Oh, Jim's not here. When's Jim going to be here?" I'm like, "Hi, I'm Joe. I'm Jim's son. How can I help you?" "Yeah, I'll come back when Jim's here."
Oh.
So it was at first I was kind of pissed about it. Who are these people? What a lot of nerve they have. But I realized the next guy who comes in later on in the week will say, "Hey, is Jim here?" "No." "Well, tell him Jack was here and tell him thanks again. He really helped me out again." I started doing
Yeah.
more and more things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we can emulate what Dad did, amen. That would
Yeah.
really really get us to a place of satisfaction,
Well,
knowing that
I,
we're still consistent that way.
that endears me even more to your guys' company, is just the fact that you have this kind of level of like, we want to keep giving the people what they really enjoy most, is that experience, that kind of catered experience with understanding the product, wanting to come back to get more product, and that's just kind of like, yeah, like that's how your experience with the store that you love most, especially these homegrown stores, like your local homegrown stores, you want that because again, it's like want to be able to like say, hey, I know the owner, or I know the guy, the manager, whatever, and I like him, and I want to, experience that same thing when I first went and got that experience. I want to keep coming back and doing and dealing with him, or dealing with the person that gave me the great experience the first time. So that endears me so much to you guys, and I really do appreciate, this level of like family, love, and appreciation for what you do. And you guys are trying your best to keep going. And I love that. And that keeps me happy, because there's so many other stories like this that I want to capture and share with, our city, because I think that one thing that's best about my experience living and growing up here is the fact that there are people like you, and there are families and businesses that want to share who they are, but they, sometimes it's like, again, it's like you're busy doing your work and there's not a cheerleader rooting for you. And I want to be that person, because that's the way I was taught. It was how I grew up, hearing stories from my own grandfather, and just that level of love of hearing it and understanding, look, there's a family, there's a person behind the business, and there's definitely an appreciation there. So I'm your cheerleader today. I'd love to get to move towards the future here, and understand maybe some hopes and dreams for you, Joe, for the business, and what you guys, maybe you and Kara have a big business plan or something that you guys are hoping to achieve by the end of this year or in the next upcoming years. I'd love to understand that aspect of it.
Sure. And thanks again for the wealth of kind words there. We're honored, and our big thing is we like to be that person's consultant. We like to be in their cell phone, and hey, I'm about to do this. Is this the right way to do it? Can I just double check?
Yeah,
That's what we're all about. So thank you for recognizing that being such a core feature of what we believe ourselves to be.
no problem.
And as far as the future, boy, it's a little daunting, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We definitely realize that it's a vastly changing still, and dramatically changed even in the last 3 or 4 years, world of brick and mortar, of retail sales, of how consumers buy, of how they get their information, of how they shop, when they want products. And the challenges that go with that really kind of beg from us to look a little bit harder, a little bit deeper, to see how are we going to fine tune things even more.
Yeah.
Our core has to be, when people come in the store, that whole in-store experience is what we rate our employees on. If our employee gets a good review,
Mhm.
we are bonusing him every time. We've told them that we want those. We don't want you to solicit it. But if you have someone who says, hey, you've really helped me out, I want you to know that. Can I tell your owner? Yeah, tell them, hey, if you want to spend a few minutes on Google or Yelp, we're going to be grateful.
That's awesome.
It tells the story. But as far as the future goes, we are trying to figure out, how does brick and mortar still succeed?
Yeah.
Each of our stores, for example, we have it's roughly about 1,000 feet per store, maybe 1,200, but they're in small little strip malls.
Yeah.
So fairly low overhead. They're all rentals. They're not owned properties. And we have watched our rents go up, just like you watched probably, rents for anything commercial go up.
Yeah.
We've watched our supply costs go up, and our margins have to tighten a lot again, because of people now saying, I don't know if I want to physically go there. Can I buy this product without going to Bug and Weed Mart?
Mm-hmm.
And we've never really gotten to a scale that is ready to do an online store, so that we can really be like an Amazon or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to figure out ways to get maybe partially there.
Yeah.
See what those results can yield. And that's a big focus for us for 2023. In fact, with Kara, she and I have some goals that we still have to report back on progress to my 85-year-old dad in about 3 weeks on, that are to this end, kind of answering some of those questions. And then into the first and second quarter of the year, we have a marketing plan we have to have buttoned up by November 15th. So excited to fill in the gaps. We're learning a little bit about who is our customer, how do we recruit new customers, who does respond to bug and weed stuff on Instagram versus Twitter versus I can't even, I'm losing my train of thought here, but the different social media platforms, there are pockets. There are moms in certain areas who respond to a student bed bug issue. And there are fathers on certain platforms who would respond to something like a roof rat issue. So we're trying to figure out, okay, we got your attention. How do we get you in the store without looking too hokey online? And it's a more daunting challenge than I think we had originally anticipated. So we're delving. We have a marketing company as well as a website designer and maintainer. So with those two entities, Kara is pretty much tied in day to day. And then she and I collaborate after I give her store level input. Here's what the managers think with the marketing plan that comes from marketing, and here's what they want to massage it. And so I think we have some good things working. We've got a lot of work to do to dust them, get the fine touches done and dot the I's across the T's. But yeah, for us to thrive and sustain, we've got to respond to the needs that we're being presented with. And we were able to probably go, sit back for a little while and watch it. Now it's time to jump in and take some action.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if I can give you any kind of hope, it's what as a kind of entity from my own end and just understanding social media aspect and those micro like you were saying, the dads who have an issue in their own home, or the moms looking to have a product to help their put around the house but also be safe for their pets and kids. It's those public faces, or as they say, social media brands and stuff like that, the influencers of the world. It's using them and utilizing them to help be, again, what I like to call the cheerleaders for your group or for your business and brand. I myself, we've started to do little things like that. So like, I'll be honest, like Britt has done some social media work for Leslie's Pools. And it's just been great to kind of show off what our capabilities are as being, one part homeowners and parents, and that aspect to show off like great products, great businesses who share the same kind of values that we want to show off. And that's one of those things that we like doing now, is just to be able to share not only what our capabilities are as those entities, those brands, and those people who use the product, but also to, help share tips and tricks that you can have for yourself as, the other homeowners and people who follow us and things like that. So all in all, that being said, I wish you nothing but the best of luck, because I know that you guys have a great squad behind you. And I know that you guys are doing everything possible to make yourselves stand out from the group. And I have full confidence in your future and what you guys are going to be able to achieve. So that being said, we're kind of reaching the end of our conversation here, and this is the moment where I leave it to you, Joe, the owner and the guy running a lot of the things. You probably have an understanding what the website is, but this is your chance to promote. Let us know, main address, main phone number, social media handles, emails, all of that in between. The floor is yours, Joe. Please let us know.
Well, thank you again, first of all, for the really enjoyable Saturday conversation. We can definitely be found easily. If you can remember Bug and Weed Mart, you can remember bugandweedmart.com.
Awesome.
5 locations. There's one in Phoenix, one in Scottsdale, Tempe, Gilbert, and Mesa. Currently open every day but Sundays, and during the holidays, of course, we'll close up a little bit extra. But no, what I'd like to say to everybody is, thank you for listening. Thank you for stepping foot in our store. If you're kind of wondering what you might be thinking about this time of the year, it's still close to 100 degrees today. It's going to cool down a little bit this week, thankfully, but that means the scorpions are out. So we've for a long time been a great source for scorpion control. And if you've always kind of wondered, does this stuff really work? It does. Just give us a chance to show you how. And if scorpions aren't an issue or bugs aren't a problem, do think about us in the next 60 to 90 days about weeds for the spring. and how to prevent them before they ever come up. It costs about $6 per 1,000 square feet and really easy to do.
Awesome. I really do appreciate you putting that at the end there, Joe, because again, it's one thing to promote yourself, but it's another thing to help people understand what's upcoming in the future that you need to look out for, because that is very much, as a homeowner myself, those are kind of like the scheduled things that I need to maintain and help understand for myself, of like my calendar year is always being constantly updated and transformed because of the upcoming weeds, upcoming pest control, upcoming all of these things. So I appreciate everything that you've dived into with us today. And I have nothing but high hopes and big wishes for you and the family, and big wishes for the business too as well. So we do have an outro for ourselves here. You can catch every episode of our podcast at findingarizonapodcast.com. We make it easy for you guys to reach us social media wise. That's under Finding Arizona Podcast under everything. Last but not least, if you want to send us an email, findingarizonapodcast@gmail.com, and let us know who you want it next. We'll try and make that happen. And as always, we end every episode with kisses, hugs, and belly rubs to our four-legged friends. We will see you next time.